What the? Okay, one sec. I gotta test something here. Boo, 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 boo. Okay, we do some adjustments. I come on over here. I click these things. Clickety clackety, clickety clackety. Let's try some typety typety, typety typety. Huh? Huh? That's so weird. All right, so I keep trying to record videos and it keeps randomly pausing it. It's like I just go over here to make sure I'm still recording. It's like paused, paused, paused. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I've tried to record this video like 3 or 4 times now at this point. All right, so basically, I'm recording this video to do my predictions of Classic World of Warcraft Season of Mastery. Because I did prediction videos in the past of TBC, and they got downvoted into oblivion, but of course I ended up being right. So, for example, here, why TBC's PvP honor system is horrifyingly poorly designed. Now, in a lot of these prediction videos I did for TBC, I was not 100% correct. Like, all my reasonings for why this would be good and why this won't be a problem and why this is going to be terrible, I was right maybe 70% of the time at most. But it doesn't change the fact that I was definitely predicted why Classic WoW is better than TBC. And, like, why the PvP system is terrible and poorly designed. Yeah, I was definitely right about that. Right about the other thing. Why TBC is garbage compared to Classic World of Warcraft, downvoted into oblivion. Who was right? I was right. Thank you very much. Why you're probably dumb for farming gold in TBC. There's another one where I talk about why the bots aren't really a problem in Classic World of Warcraft, and that got downvoted significantly, and I was, turned out I was right about that. Why inflation wouldn't be a problem, kind of right about that. Blah, 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 blah. So, before Season of Mastery comes out, I'm going to make my prediction. Spoiler alert, Season of Mastery is going to be dog shit compared to Classic World of Warcraft from a player demographic perspective. Meaning, what do I mean by that? I mean that specifically, Season of Mastery will be a more enjoyed game by those people who are going to play it. But compared to Classic World of Warcraft, no changes, I'm predicting that less than half of the people who were playing Classic World of Warcraft No Changes are going to end up playing Season of Mastery. So we have a scenario where you've halved the amount you've halved the amount of people playing your game, but the people playing the game are happier with this version of the game. That's my prediction for Season of Mastery. Half the number of people would play it that would play on a fresh classic No Changes server. But those people who are playing Season of Mastery are going to be happier playing a Season of Mastery server than they would No Changes. And the reason for that has to do with player demographics and a whole bunch of things. But let's just talk about the two principal things that they're changing in Season of Mastery compared to Classic World of Warcraft. No changes. Okay, I hate the fact that I have to keep saying no changes. We're just going to call them Season of Mastery and Classic WoW. All right, from now on. I'll make sure I'm still recording. And this hasn't randomly paused. Oh, goody. Right. So, they've made the raids harder. All right. Well, they haven't made the raid. If you go watch StaySafe's video, they haven't made the raids all that much harder, believe it or not, from, how do I put this? The bosses are definitely like 10 times harder, but not hard enough that you're not going to clear the raids, if that makes sense. So, from what I saw from StaySafe's video, just about every boss in Molten Core, at least, was about on par with difficulty level of Firemaw. Meaning that there's nothing overly statistically scary about the bosses. But simple raid coordination is going to be required to down the boss. But if you can operate as a coordinated raid team, you're going to be fine. Well, a lot like Firemaw, right? So, like literally every boss in Blackwing Lair is a tank and spank boss until you get to Firemaw. Firemaw requires raid coordination and is definitely not just a tank and spank boss. And that seems to be the case for just about every boss in Molten Core. They're all tank and spank, kind of, but they also require raid coordination. You can go watch the video. It's kind of interesting. But luckily, you can kite the bosses and do Oblivion, so it was kind of easy to deal with. All right, so I'm not too terribly in... Harder raids, what it's going to primarily do from a player demographic perspective is some people who like harder raids are going to want to play Classic World of Warcraft for the harder raids. but they're not making the raids so hard to really cater to them all that much. Like, the raids are going to be harder, but it's not going to really... It's not going to get the blood pumping of people who really live for hard raids, like Asmongold, for example, right? However, the raid increase in difficulty is going to turn off a sizable percentage of the player base, particularly the socializers, the people who want to get drunk and socialize and enjoy, like, you know, a really easy molten core, and then players who just naturally suck at MMORPGs, or who are kind of like me and can't handle a lot of mechanics or particle effects in the screen at any given point in time, right? So I predict that you're going to lose at least 10% of the player base proportionately, just because you're making the raids harder. But the remaining player base will be happier. I think it might be as much as 20% you're going to lose for making the raids harder, but nothing really compares to how many people you're going to lose. It's basically a trivial observation that you're going to lose 10 to 20% of your player base for more difficult raids when you compare it to how many people you're going to lose because you went from long time to short time. And I just want to talk about that for a second. Let me make sure we're still recording. Are we recording? Yes, we are. Okay. What do I mean by long time, short time? Okay, well, what we played in Classic World of Warcraft was this down here, which is long time and then hard to get. And what I mean by that is loot is hard to get. So Classic World of Warcraft was out for a very long period of time, like a two-year life cycle, which a lot of us even thought was too short of a time period even at the time, right? We thought, what did we think? We thought that AQ was way too short. Naxxramas gear came out. Naxxramas came out way too quickly for us to really enjoy AQ. Like, Nax came out before anybody and their dog was BIS geared out of AQ40. Like, it came out super freaking fast. And then, of course, TBC came out super fast, kind of trivializing the Naxxramas loot. Also a bit of a problem. So you could argue that even Classic World of Warcraft on a 2-year time cycle is not technically long time. But we definitely had long time in Classic World of Warcraft for, like, Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. We can totally argue with that. I'll totally agree with that. So Classic World of Warcraft has long time, and then the gear is hard to get. And then they're changing this into Season of Mastery, short time, and then loot is easy to get. And then I have to ask myself, okay, well, player demographic-wise, who's going to enjoy this change and who's not going to enjoy this change? And you can break down player demographics at a very, very superficial level to no-lifer PvPer, no lifer PvPer, and then no-lifer, and then lifer PvEers. And we're just going to cycle through this. The reason why there's a line through short time loot is hard to get, because that's a dead game. Like, no player demographic in their right mind is going to want to play a game where it's short time and then the loot is hard to get. So the only 3 viable options for your game are long time, hard to get, long time, easy to get, and then short time, easy to get. All right, so let's go through this. If you're a no-lifer PvPer like myself, meaning you've got, like, 12 hours a day you can dedicate to playing World of Warcraft, you're not too terribly bothered by the fact that the game is now short time, and you're kind of really happy that the loot is easier to get, because the way PvP works for PvPers, or the way the game works I'm trying to express that there's a difference in the dynamics of when you no longer have any more content to do for a PvPer than there is for a PvEer. So a PvEer has no more content to do in Classic World of Warcraft, or in World of Warcraft in general, once they get pre-raid BIS. Once a PvEer gets pre-raid BIS, the only content for them is to work on their alts. Like, predominantly. That's the work on their alts and or prepare for the next raid tier, which is something that Classic WoW technically has going for it. Now, one second. Got a cough. Okay. The hell was I talking about here? Right. So, however, things are completely different for PvPers. As a PvPer, your fun and enjoyment extends far past you getting your BIS gear. Because once you get your BIS gear, you kind of want to just... You want nothing to change for as long as possible while you go around PvPing in your best possible gear. So, for example, if it takes you like 4 months of raiding to get BIS gear, The PvPer will easily enjoy that content in Classic WoW for 6 months, like 2 months after getting their BIS gear, whereas the PvPer is going to be kind of feeling like there's nothing for them to do after 4 months and getting that BIS gear. So, long time and hard to get. Really, nobody's super happy with long time, hard to get, but everyone is kind of happy with long time, hard to get. Long time, hard to get, a game mode is a game mode that tends to make everybody, sort of happy. And one of the reasons for that is because of the lifers. The lifers don't have a lot of time to play. And so it really benefits them if they can just chill out and take a long time to get their gear, because they have a long time to get their gear, right? They're not under a lot of pressure to play the game, blah, 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 blah. They got other shit to do besides play World of Warcraft and feel stressed out that they need to play World of Warcraft for a lot of time. Which, of course, brings us to short time, easy to get. Short time, easy to get is a bit of a double-edged sword. A no-lifer PvPer doesn't really mind short time all that much, especially if it's compared to easy to get, but it's not that much better or worse for us than like long time hard to get. The shitty thing for us is kind of that we're going to feel like we're under way more stress to get the BIS gear as quickly as possible, because things are going to change very quickly. And how do I put this? You have the amount of time that I need to get the gear, but you've also have the amount of time that I have to enjoy the gear. So, for example, if it takes me 4 months to get my gear in Classic World of Warcraft, but I have 2 months to enjoy the gear before my gear starts becoming obsolete, like AQ comes out or Blackwing Lair comes out, it's like, okay, that's an interesting trade-off. If we have that amount of time, which seems to be what they're going for in Classic WoW, we are now looking at it taking me only 2 months to get my BIS gear, but now I only have 1 month to enjoy my BIS gear in PvP before it gets obsoleted. And you have to ask yourself, which is better? It taking 4 months for me to get my BIS PvP gear, but I have 2 months to enjoy it, or it takes me 2 months to get my gear, but I only have 1 month to enjoy it. And at best, you could say it's a mathematical dead even split, right? But then you bring in the factor that some people do not want to feel like they're super pressured to play the game. And then I think it becomes a net negative for the player demographics, because I think there are way more people out there that when they play a game like World of Warcraft or an RPG in general, especially an MMORPG, they want a game where they can just chill out, take their time, and kind of do things at their own pace, and they will get there eventually. As a PvPer, it's a bit of an arms race. Like, you are literally in an arms race with other players as a PvPer. So, yeah, whatever. I'd say at best it evens itself out. Then we get to the lifers, and lifers both enjoy a long time game and a hard to get game. Lifers would much rather have a game where it's long time and then loot is easy to get. Like, this is the ideal situation for a lifer PvEer and a lifer PvPer. And the reason for that is because you don't have a lot of time to play the game. So when you do play the game, you want to be able to get your gear relatively easily. And because you don't have a long time to play the game, especially for PvPers, because things are an arms race for PvPers, they what the hell am I trying to say? Oh, right. They don't want to feel stressed out about, they don't want to feel bad about the fact that they only have like 4 hours a day to play the game at most. And we'll say like 3 hours a day to play the game at most. And to them, it really benefits them if it's like, yeah, it might take me longer to get my PvP BIS gear, but I'm still going to be able to enjoy it for months nonetheless, because the gear is easy to get and we aren't in a long-term life cycle. Long time loot easy to get. I'm not sure that lifer PvEers like this all that much. I could be wrong. Like, the lifer PvPer is in a weird predicament. Because while they don't like long time hard to get, the other options aren't really all that good for them either, in my personal opinion. Mind you, I'm not a lifer PvEer. I'm like literally not either of these. So if there's anything that I could be talking about my ass, I could be potentially talking out my ass on, it would be the lifer PvEer, because, you know, I'm not a lifer and I'm not a PvEer. So what the hell do I know? So, long time hard to get is awesome for a lifer PvEer, because they're not super stressed out. Plenty of time to get the gear. Don't have a lot of time to play, but plenty of time to get the gear. And then the gear is also hard to get, which, you know, which is technically good for PvEers, because, again, their game content kind of terminates upon getting the gear. So the fact that the gear is hard to get means they have a lot of game time. And it's really about striking that balance between them getting super bored having to raid Molten Core for month after month after month after month, because the gear just never drops. And we raid Molten Core for like a month, and then I'm in BIS, and now I have nothing to do, right? So it's a bit of a balancing act, but don't think about it in too many terms of extremes. We'll assume it's well balanced. Long time loot easy to get has that double-edged sword effect for them, where it's like, okay, I got plenty of time to get the gear, and the gear is also easy to get, but once I get the gear, I don't have any more content. Then I have to ask myself, how does short time easy to get loot affect a lifer PvEer? And I think they're going to hate it. Like, I think this is the player base that is absolutely going to abhor, hate, despise. Oh, God, that's a really good name for a character in a book or in a movie, or like a guild name. Abhor. Huh, weird. Because literally it means, like, you know, abhor. That's funny. We're going to hate or despise Classic WoW Season of Mastery, because as a lifer, you just don't have the time to to mess around with this short time, right? Like, when you're on short time, you feel really stressed out because you feel like you have to play the game or you're falling behind, right? Have to play the game or I'm falling behind. Now, in Classic World of Warcraft, it's not that big of a deal because the raids were quite easy. But if you're going to make the raids more difficult, yeah, they're going to take the guy who actually has his pre-raid BIS over your dumbass who only got half pre-raid BIS because you just don't have the time, right? So they're going to hate that aspect of the game. They theoretically should love that the loot is easier to get, but I don't think they're going to enjoy the stress of being on short time, if that makes any sense. So, the lifer PvPer, I think, is neutral on the short time loot easy to get. I think it balances out almost identically. So if I had to pinpoint a... Let me get some arrows here. We'll do red real fast here. Okay, up. I should be able to, like, hit a button. 180 degrees. Zip. Alright, so I think lifer PvEer is going to hate Classic WoW Season of Mastery. I think a few of them break even. What the fuck? I rotated the whole thing, didn't I? Yes, I did. Thank you. So nice of you. I would like to not rotate the entire thing and just rotate. Oh, I have to click it. That's cute. And boom. And... boom. Ah! Left. No! Right. Double right. There we go. Double right and adjust. No! Alright, so the process is I have to click to make an arrow. Check. I gotta click this thing and I want it to go 90 degrees to the right. Check. Oh, shit. I need to click the middle of it and move it. Then I probably need to Control-C the damn thing. Or not. And then we're going to copy it. Yep. Control C, Control V. Whoever thinks paint is not a pain in the ass is out of their damn mind. Holy crap, that's fat. You're a fatty. Alright, let's see here. Fat shaming MS Paint. Neutral, neutral, and I think these boys here are the ones who are actually going to enjoy Classic WoW Season of Mastery. Right. Okay, there we go. Click the middle. Click thy middle. Boom. Or not boom. Boom and boom. Here we go. Okay. So my general prediction, if I'm just like looking at the player demographics and what effects it's going to have on the WoW player base from a very simplistic viewpoint, is that the lifer PvEer is not going to like short time, easy to get loot. No matter how easy you make it to level to 60, whether you give them like whether you give them boosts or shit, the problem is they still have to go get pre-raid bis because you managed to make the raid harder. Congratulations. So the very thing that is supposedly enticing them to come, which is harder raids, is the thing that's going to make them not want to come because they know they have to get their pre-raid bis gear, or they're not going to be invited to a raid. You get the point, right? So they're not going to like the schedule. The no lifer PvPer is like, okay, whatever. The lifer PvPer is like, meh, okay, whatever, it breaks even. The no lifer PvEer is going to be absolutely ecstatic that it's short time, loot is easy to get. This is by far the best possible scenario for them. But then if we actually break it down further into player demographics, you have to ask yourself, what percentage of the WoW player base is this? Because I don't think it's above 50%. Even though it might look like, okay, we're losing 25% of the player base at most. Technically, I think this group here accounts for maybe 25% or less than 50% of the player base. It's probably closer to like 30% of the player base are these people right here. By 30% of the player base, I mean the player base that a fresh classic WoW no changes server could muster currently today in competition with this short time, easy to get loot Season of Mastery. Because no lifers are kind of rare. And then PvPers are kind of rare compared to PvEers. And by far, I think the biggest player demographic of them all at like 60, at least 50%, possibly 60%, is going to be the lifer PvEer. And the lifer PvEer is not going to like short time loot easy to get, in my personal opinion. It gets worse. So my number one prediction for Season of Mastery is this. And this is what prompted me to want to make this video in the first damn place. Is I can't figure Blizzard out. And what do I mean by that? I mean that Blizzard does things as a company that say, I want money. I like money. Right? Screw the player base, screw long-term security for the game, screw your objections, screw everything, give us money, we are Blizzard. They do that from time to time, right? Like the bots in the game aren't possibly going to help Blizzard except other than to make money. The fact that WoW tokens and gold selling is a thing in the game isn't going to possibly, it's short-term gains, monetary gains for long-term damage to the game. The best example would be the level boost, like cash grab. Okay, so let me give you a primary example. Why I'm so confused about Blizzard is that they do things that say, we want money, we like money, but then at the same time, they do things where they're literally just lighting their money on fire. And I'm not even talking in short-term and long-term gains type mentality. I'm talking like, for example, when Classic TBC came out, they announced that they were going to do a boost. And they were going to make shit tons of money off of the Classic TBC boost. But at the same time, they, in my opinion, they easily lost 50% of the WoW player base over the boost alone. This is me just pulling numbers out my ass, but let's assume they lost 50% of the WoW player base. But, you know, they get to sell boosts. Yay. Again, you could argue that that's a short-term game at long-term negative, which I would agree with. But at the same time, they could have just as easily came out with a fresh TBC Classic server that was no changes and no boosts, which is what everybody was kind of asking for. And they, at the snap of your fingers, they would not have lost that 50% of the player base whatsoever, because they're like, okay, no boosts, no problem. I hate the fact that I might have to level again, but at least there's no bots around, you know what I mean? Or you could even make it so that people could transfer over their characters from Classic World of Warcraft into the TBC Fresh server, but you would do so, but you weren't allowed to have, how do I put this? You weren't allowed to take any raw gold with you, if that makes any sense. So your bank accounts would literally be set to 0 gold, and they could even, you know, do some coding so that if you had like a bank full of arcane crystals or some shit like that, which wouldn't actually sell for all that much in TBC, then whatever. So you get the point, right? So they could have made it so that either it's a fresh leveling, a fresh TBC server with no boosts, or you can transfer over and your gold just disappears. It completely vaporizes, and get rid of the inflation and bot issue that everyone was concerned existed, which I didn't think existed. But in retrospect, it's like, okay, well, even if the problem doesn't exist, if the player base thinks it exists and they're acting with their subscription fees thinking that it exists, then you might as well act like it actually exists. Blah, 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 blah. In other words, it wasn't a problem, but the player base thinks it's a problem, therefore you need to act like it's a problem, because the player base is going to act like it's a problem. Ugh. Talking quick, thinking quick. Right, but they didn't do that. No, they were like, fuck 50% of the sub fees. Let's not give these guys a fresh TBC server or even a TBC server with no boosts. That's not what they did. So I'm simultaneously looking at a company that is willing to say, screw its player base, we want money, but at the same time is unable to take intelligent decisions to make money. All right, so, and the exact same thing is playing out in Season of Mastery, or potentially will play out in Season of Mastery, where Blizzard is going to lose a substantial portion of the player base that they could have with a fresh, classic, no changes TBC server on, not TBC, classic WoW server on long time, hard to get, by going short time, easy to get, right? Now, the answer should be obvious. They should have servers where it's long time, hard to get. Just come out with fresh, classic PvP and PvP servers that are on a 2 or even 3 year life cycle, alongside the short time, easy to get loot servers, Season of Mastery style, right? They just come out with both of them simultaneously, and you literally have no problems whatsoever, and you can make all the monies. You literally can make all the monies. You follow me on this, boys? Right? But it's the same thing that could have happened in TBC. You can come out with boosts. You can come out with the mounts. You can come out, and you can also come out with fresh servers or whatever we just described, where, you know, make everybody happy, and by extension make all the monies. So they could have made all the monies with the TBC, but they fucked it up. And now in Season of Mastery, I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, you're going to cut your player base in half. You could very easily fix it so that you can make all the monies, but you're not going to. So my prediction is they won't do it. My straight up prediction is Season of Mastery is going to come out, and one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to have an abysmal player count compared to a classic World of Warcraft was able to do. So eventually they'll come out with fresh classic WoW, long time, hard to get servers. Like, just throw it out there and see what happens, because they're in such a financially desperate situation that they don't have a choice. They have to throw it out there. Or they're going to sit back on their egos and try to, like, you know, argue that, yeah, Season of Mastery isn't as popular as classic World of Warcraft. That's because classic WoW sucks. And it's like, what the? I don't know, man. But anyways, I'm sitting over here. Same scenario is about to play out. Make sure Dakova's not talking to me over here. And I'm pretty sure the exact same scenario is going to play out, where it's like, as TBC, where, okay, you're making changes, but the changes are literally going to cut your player base in half. And there's a very simple solution for you to fix it and make all the monies, but you're not going to. Ugh. So I can't tell if Blizzard is a greedy, stupid company or if Blizzard is an egotistical company. I think what's happening is Blizzard, the people who are money-minded at Blizzard have a short-term gains, long-term who gives a shit mindset. And at the same time, I think they're too stupid to understand player demographics. In an MMORPG, that's like me being an RTS designer and me being too stupid to understand balance or in my game. It's like, no, if you're an RTS, you desperately need to understand balance, especially like timing-based balance. Like, you know, my faction is super weak early game, and that faction is super weak late game. So if I don't have a way to stop them from straight up murdering the other faction, this game is not is imba as all hell. Yeah. So anyways, I'm just sitting here thinking, the one thing that makes me not have faith in Blizzard at all is the fact that they could make all the monies very easily. It's like, just come out with a fresh, no changes, classic WoW season, like just like it did before. And what's even dumber is they could have done this in TBC, right? Like, the people who didn't want to go play TBC but were happily playing classic World of Warcraft, if they didn't come out with... that would have been so weird, though. I'm trying to describe a scenario where they do not come out with fresh TBC servers to appease the people who are not going to be happy with the boosting and the botting and the inflation. But at the same time, they come out with a fresh classic WoW server with no changes so they can go play over there. I don't know. Blizzard's just dumb. I don't know what to tell you. So anyways, my prediction is it's going to be like TBC. It's going to have the player base, and then Blizzard apparently is too dumb to literally make all the monies and just come out with a fresh classic World of Warcraft. I think it's going to eventually be painfully obvious to them financially that they're losing money by not having a fresh classic World of Warcraft, no changes, like, you know, long time, hard to get. And eventually they'll concede to having long time, hard to get. Personally, if I had to play the two of them, I would want to play classic World of Warcraft on long time, hard to get, just because I know the people that I'll be playing with on long time, hard to get. I'm going to be more compatible with their personality type than with the type of people who are going to be playing short time and then the loot is easy to get. The people who are going to be playing short time, loot easy to get, are going to be predominantly no-lifers. And if you noticed anything about Phase 2, no-lifers are an interesting animal, to say the least. Is my volume up here? Volume up. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to end the video here, and Deus Volt, boys, on my predictions. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing a video here soon with Drakova. We just got done testing our microphones. And I'll get to see what he thinks about this whole spiel. Anyways, Deus Volt, and yeah, happy hunting.